Welcome back. This is the finishing portion of my latest series on razor honing. We're going to move to a Japanese natural. This is Makita Iramone, I believe is how you pronounce that. And what it is it's got a slight bit of, you'll see it more I think under when it's wet, of little red blush here and there. That's Iramone. And we're going to take some water and wet this stone. And now you should be able to see the blush in this stone. It's a beautiful stone. And we're going to take our rubbing stone, Tomo, according to the Japanese designation for stuff like this. And I'm going to raise a fairly milky slurry. And actually, we're going to take this out of this holder because with Jnats and natural stones that are of a certain size, I much prefer to do this. Again, a graduation of pressure across the edge of the blade as we hone. And I'm using a fair bit, a tiny bit, not a fair bit, but a tiny bit of torque on this blade. Now, when you look at this, it's darker, but it's also, be careful doing that. I wouldn't recommend it for a beginner, but it's also thickening up a bit, which is not what I want. So, I'm going to add a little bit of water in it to dilute it. If it thickens too much, it'll get kind of pasty, and that will cause the stone to kind of degrade your edge instead of refine it. And so you want to pay attention, and that's true of any stone you're going to slurry that I am aware of. You want to pay attention to what's going on with that slurry. You don't want it to get too thick. I'm going to add a bit of water. What I'm doing now is I'm beginning to dilute this slurry, but I'm going to actually raise a second one here. In just a minute. All right, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to rinse off the blade. And I'm going to rinse off the stone. And I'm going to look through my loupe for that hazy Jnat finish that I want on this. Almost like a, oh yeah, almost like a bead blasted sort of finish. That's gorgeous. And that's what I'm looking for. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a second slurry that's just a little bit lighter than what I raised the first time. Not much, because I don't need it much lighter, but just a little bit. And we're going to go to town. Actually, I'm going to turn this stone. But I mean, look at that. See the blushing in it? That's just a beautiful, that's one of the things that I love about all kinds of natural stones. There are patterns and colors and things of that going on because the stone is not completely pure. It's not like a and I'm lessening the torque on this razor. It's not like a synthetic stone where every piece, every particle of that is known and understood. Every particle size is exactly the same, and the binder that's used to hold it all together is exactly the same. Natural stones have impurities in them. Some of them make that stone, you know. It's why when people start comparing a natural stone and talking about a grit rating, they don't understand, or they ignore the fact that that grit rating that they're talking about doesn't mean squat, because the way the natural stone works is different than the way that a synthetic works. With a water stone, okay, you have particles in that stone that are exactly, say, let's take the 4K. Okay, they're exactly 4K in size, whichever measurement the company that makes that stone designates as a 4K, whichever micron of measurement they choose to designate 4K. And what happens is it's in a binder, a soft binder, and as you sharpen or hone on the stone, it's soft enough that it's abrading the steel, but it's abrading it because the steel is first abrading the stone, and the stone is friable, and you're pulling that whole grit off of the stone into the water that you're honing with, and all those particles are 4K. Okay, in this case, because we're talking about a 4K. And it doesn't work that way with a natural stone. Some natural stones are softer, but a natural stone, those particles, first of all, if it is a friable stone, will break down and become finer. But also, this stone has not got grit running all the way through it. There's a whole lot more. It's a sedimentary stone. You can see the sedimentary layers in this stone. And the particles in this stone that do the cutting, the main particles that do the cutting in this stone, there's only a certain amount of them sticking above the surface. And they're trapped in whatever's in this stone. And so it's going to cut differently, and it's going to cut finer than if somebody took this and took the slurry off the top of this stone or whatever it is, busted it up or did whatever it is they thought they had to do to measure it. Okay? and looked at it under the microscope and found the biggest particle size they could find and say, well, it's this size. Well, no, it's not, because there's thousands and thousands and thousands of different size particles in this stone, and every time I run a razor across this stone, I'm hitting different size particles all over the place in this stone. And the stone is going to react to that. The metal is going to react to that in a different way than it would with a man-made stone. Water stone or a man-made oil stone like a India or crystalline, silicon carbide, aluminum oxide. It just is. So, I mean, that's the truth. All right. Beautiful. Let's look at the edge. Sorry. I know. I love sharp objects. I'm sorry. Well, no, I'm not sorry. I love them, man. Let me see what this booger looks like. That's flipping gorgeous. Now that right there, I can stop right here if I want to and strop this razor and get an absolutely scalding edge off of it, a scalding shaver. I don't have to go any further than this, but I'm going to. So stay tuned for the final step in this process. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.